When it comes to private classes, it's just your company. So you can speak freely about things knowing who the audience is, and you can hone in on ideas that your team feels are important to bring up without concern about that getting out to any other part of the world.
Something interesting that came up in the Fragile to Agile class that I did for a company is we talked about this idea of doing a retrospective. And normally I do a retrospective kind of on the class. How did things go? But they had brought up a couple of struggles that they were having. And they were external struggles outside of their team. So I said, well, you know what? Something we would do at a retrospective in a traditional Agile environment is we would bring all of those things up. Said, so instead of doing a retrospective on the class, let's treat this like a real sprint retrospective. Let's talk about these concerns that you're having and these problems you're having a hard time resolving. And so they added a number of things that they're doing well and things to improve. And we did the normal voting for what we want to work on. And then we spent a good 30 minutes kind of doing ideation on ways to resolve this one particular item that they really wanted to try and overcome, which was collaborating with another team that they had to work with. And that's really, I was able to facilitate for them something that they're going to do every sprint and really walk them through the process of doing that and almost treat it more like coaching than teaching, because we really resolved a problem.
And for some of the classes that we teach, like for example, the software testing fundamentals, and then some of our Agile classes, we touch on topics that are pressing on companies. Like they've been wanting to overhaul a lot of their methodology. And because Jenna and I create an environment where people feel very comfortable about speaking up, and we give people time and space, we have often seen it that they'll say, okay, actually, I'd like to hold up the class for a moment here. This is our students. And some leader amongst the students will say, I'd like to talk on this one for a little bit more with the class. And so it gives them that forum to talk about a number of points that really wouldn't necessarily be available in any other situation. I mean, in the day-to-day work, when else are they going to have a chance to talk all these things through at length? Well, when we have these multi-day classes, this is the optimal time to talk these through. And I'd like to believe that these lead to positive changes for their teams.
And that's one of the big benefits of having some sort of leadership in the class, be it like a test leader, a dev lead, or a manager even. They get to experience the same thing the students are experiencing. And it leads to those really good conversations that Byron was mentioning. You know, we can bring up that these are ways to approach your test strategy, or these are methodologies you can use, or these are techniques that you can combine to get to improved quality levels or develop that sense of like shared ownership of quality in teams. And when the leaders get to be part of that conversation and get to see that, it puts the whole team in a better place to start developing those practices as a whole. Instead of somebody coming back and saying, I heard this thing in this class and I think it's really good, to a manager who doesn't have an opportunity to ask questions. Now the manager is there, they hear it as well. They have an opportunity to really start putting the pieces together to improve and mature their processes.
Right, and then they're not just hearing it from one person or two. They're hearing it the whole class saying, yes, we all feel this way. Mm-hmm. And it starts to come home to them what's really happening in their teams. And building off of that, considering that we are strong proponents of Agile here, we are very pleased whenever we see students come in where it's multiple cross-cutting responsibilities. Like you've got your developers there, your operations, your leadership, your testers, and so on, all in the same room. Now we can really see some magic happening where they're talking and saying, okay, well, I see where the gaps happen between our different teams. And we can talk about how Agile embraces this idea of them being team members, all working together, building a shared understanding and shared vocabulary to talk things through. And then those problems start to go away. It gets to the ideas of root cause. And a lot of the problems are actually a result of those disconnects between teams.
And that really goes to something we talk about, not just in Agile, but just in general in business. We talk about those stages of team development and doing these kinds of shared training experiences where everybody's in the classroom together. You're getting the value of both new information and developing your folks and helping to improve their skills and their experience and their knowledge. But you also get that added benefit of a team building activity. It's not what people usually think of. It's not going to, the high ropes course and doing activities like that. But there's real value in team building in doing shared learning experiences. And there's real value in them creating that shared vocabulary and that group language that Agile is really reliant on.
Yeah. And both